I still remember the sound of their applause, loud, proud, echoing in my ears like a cruel joke. They were clapping for her. My cousin, Lena. She stood there under the lights, smiling like an angel, holding the award that had my name written all over it. The same award I'd stayed up countless nights preparing for. My parents were in the front row, eyes shining with pride, not for me, but for her. In that moment, I felt something break inside me. It wasn't just jealousy, it was grief. The kind that comes when your own blood steals your dreams, and everyone you love helps her do it. I wanted to scream, to tell them the truth, but my throat burned with silence. All I could do was watch as she bowed, pretending she'd earned what I built. They finally have the perfect daughter, I whispered to myself, and it's not me. That night, beneath all the applause and flashing lights, I made a promise. One day, I'd take back everything she stole, including my respect. People always said the Carters were the picture of perfection, a family everyone admired. My father, Richard Carter, ran a respected law firm. My mother, Margaret, hosted charity events and spoke about family values like it was her religion. My brother, Sam, was the golden child, confident, loud, the one who never did anything wrong. And then there was me, Emily, the quiet one, the one who tried to make everyone proud without ever being noticed. Every Sunday dinner felt like a performance. The silverware gleamed, laughter filled the air, and every compliment was perfectly placed. My mother's voice would cut through the noise, proud and sharp. Sam just got another client promotion, she'd say. And Lena, oh, she's such a gem. So responsible, so elegant. Then her eyes would shift to me, soft but distant. Emily, you're doing fine, dear. Keep trying. That word, trying, became my label. Trying to impress. Trying to belong. Trying to be enough. When Aunt Olivia and Lena moved in after Uncle Victor's sudden death, things changed. At first, I was happy to have another girl in the house. Lena was all smiles and compliments. She called me her big sister even though she was 2 years younger. She hugged my mom like she'd known her all her life, helped her arrange flowers, cooked her favorite dishes. Within days, she became the daughter my parents always wanted me to be. I remember one evening, sitting by the dining table, listening as they talked about her. Lena's so mature for her age, my mother said, her voice glowing. My father nodded. She reminds me of your mother, Margaret, graceful, poised. Then Sam laughed. Unlike Emily, who still forgets to smile during family photos. They all chuckled. I forced a smile, my hands trembling under the table. It wasn't that they hated me, they just didn't see me. I worked on my dream project quietly, hoping that someday they'd look at me the way they looked at her, with pride instead of polite tolerance. But Lena had a way of shining that dimmed everyone around her. When guests came over, she'd tell charming stories about our family as if she'd been born into it. My mother would glance at her with adoration, saying, "That girl has the Carter charm." One night, as we cleaned up after dinner, Lena looked at me and said softly, "You're so lucky, Emily. Your parents treat me like their own daughter." I smiled back, but inside, something twisted. "Yeah," I whispered, "lucky." Days turned into weeks, and I watched my family revolve around her. Every decision, every celebration, every conversation somehow included Lena. I tried to remind myself it was just temporary, that blood mattered more than charm. But deep down, I felt the shift, like I was slowly being replaced. The night before my big business proposal presentation, I overheard my parents talking in the living room. Lena could help her, my mother said. She knows how to present herself. My father agreed. Yes, let Lena polish it. Emily's ideas are strong, but she needs guidance. I froze at the doorway, heart sinking. My project, my dream, was already slipping out of my hands. And as I stood there, hidden in the shadows, I realized something chilling. Lena didn't just want to be part of our family, she wanted my place in it. The day everything truly began to unravel was the afternoon my father called a family announcement. We gathered in the living room, the one reserved for guests and special occasions, the room that smelled faintly of lemon polish and pride. My father stood tall near the fireplace, his voice firm. Our family has been invited to present a proposal at the county's annual business gala. It's an opportunity to represent the Carter name, to show what we stand for. I felt my heart leap. This was my chance. I'd been working quietly for months on a proposal, a business plan for a women-led startup supporting local artisans. My father had dismissed it before as a hobby, but maybe now he'd see. Maybe they all would. I've been developing something, I said softly, handing over my folder. My hands trembled, but my voice held steady. It's complete, every detail, from budget to design. Lena leaned closer to peek. Oh wow, Emily, she said sweetly, you've really done all this yourself. My father skimmed the pages. My mother's eyes brightened. For a moment, I saw approval flicker, that rare, fragile look I'd chased all my life. But then Lena spoke again, her voice smooth as silk. It's good, Uncle Richard, but maybe it could use a little polish. You know, I took a marketing course last year. I could help refine it for the presentation. My mother smiled immediately. That's a wonderful idea, dear. You two can work together. Together. The word felt heavy, but I nodded, pretending to be grateful, while my stomach knotted in quiet dread. Over the next week, Lena and I sat at the dining table every evening, surrounded by coffee cups and paper drafts. She'd offer suggestions that slowly replaced my ideas with hers, new slogans, altered figures, softer language. Every time I objected, she'd smile innocently. Relax, Em. We're just improving it. We're family. By the end, my project looked like a stranger's creation. Still, I stayed silent. I thought maybe, if it succeeded, we'd share the recognition. Maybe she'd tell them the truth. But during dinner one night, my father made an announcement that crushed any hope of that. Lena, he said proudly, you'll present the proposal at the gala. You have the charisma for it. I froze. But, it's my project. My mother's tone turned sharp. Emily, don't start. You're too emotional under pressure. We need someone composed. It's still your idea, but Lena will represent us. Represent us. Not me. Sam chuckled. Don't take it personally, Em. Not everyone's meant for the spotlight. The laughter that followed was light, casual, but it burned. I sat there in silence, tasting humiliation. My hands clenched in my lap as Lena smiled softly, pretending to feel bad. It's just one event, she whispered. We're family. I'll make you proud. That night, I locked myself in my room and stared at the mirror for hours. I barely recognized the girl staring back, eyes swollen from tears she couldn't let fall in front of them. All I could hear was my mother's voice in my head. We need someone composed. The next morning, I overheard Lena talking to Ethan, a family friend I once admired, maybe even liked. Her voice floated through the hallway, sugar-sweet. Oh, I just helped Emily clean up her project a little, she said. She means well, but she's too soft for business. He laughed. You're saving the family's reputation. I stepped back before they saw me, my heart hammering. Saving the family's reputation. From me. That evening, when I confronted her quietly, she looked me straight in the eye and said, It's not stealing if I make it better, Emily. You should thank me. Something inside me shattered, not because of her words, but because I realized she believed them. I walked away, every step echoing with the sound of betrayal. And as I reached my room, I whispered to myself, they've chosen her. Not just for the presentation, but for everything I ever wanted to be. Outside my door, their laughter carried down the hall, warm and unbothered. Inside, I felt the walls closing in. That was the night I stopped trying to fit into their version of perfection. And the night I decided, one way or another, they were going to see the real me. After that night, I began to fade in my own home. Not because I wanted to, but because every time I tried to speak, someone else spoke louder, brighter, sweeter. Lena's presence was like perfume. Intoxicating at first, then suffocating. She filled every corner of the Carter household until there was no air left for me. The gala drew closer, and preparations consumed everyone. My mother and Lena went shopping for outfits, laughing as if they'd always been a mother and daughter duo. You'll look perfect on stage, Mom said, fixing a pearl necklace around Lena's neck. Then she glanced at me. Emily, you'll help with the slides, right? Help. The word stung. I wasn't part of the spotlight. I was the background. The invisible worker who existed only to make others shine. At dinner, Lena would accidentally let my ideas slip into conversation as if they'd been hers all along. Oh, I was thinking of including that story about the artisans' market. Remember, Uncle Richard? My father nodded approvingly. Brilliant touch, Lena. I wanted to scream, that was my idea. But the words died somewhere between my throat and my pride. Rumors started trickling through our family circle. Aunt Olivia's whispers had turned me into the problem child. Emily's too sensitive, she told anyone who'd listen. She can't handle pressure. Lena's helping her out of kindness. At first, I tried to ignore it. But then even Ethan began to pull away. He used to visit to discuss ideas, to talk about books or future plans. Now, his conversations belonged to Lena. I caught them once on the patio, laughing over coffee. My heart clenched when I heard him say, "You've got real vision, Lena. You're going places." I walked past them, pretending not to care, but my chest felt like it was splitting. A few nights later, we hosted a small pre-gala dinner for family friends. The table was beautifully set, gold-rimmed plates, polished glasses, every detail perfect. But the perfection cracked when my mother asked, "Lena, would you like to say a few words about your presentation?" Lena stood, her voice sweet and confident. "This project means so much to me," she began. "It's about empowering women, something I've always believed in." My fork froze midair. Always believed in? I had been fighting for that cause since college. She spoke for 5 full minutes, every sentence a reworded version of my work. The guests clapped, and someone even said, "You must be so proud, Margaret. She takes after you." And then, my mother smiled, radiant, as if she'd just been handed her dream daughter. When the applause faded, one guest turned to me. "Emily, didn't you help with this too?" Before I could answer, Lena laughed lightly. "Oh, just a little. She's been so supportive. I couldn't have done it without her." The words sounded kind, but they tasted like poison. The room erupted in polite laughter. My cheeks burned. I smiled faintly to hide the humiliation. But inside, something snapped. Later that night, Grandma Ruth found me outside, sitting alone under the old oak tree. Her voice was low and heavy with knowing. "You can't outshine someone who steals your light, child. You must take it back." Her words stayed with me. They echoed louder each time Lena smiled my parents, each time they looked at her the way I had always wanted them to look at me. And then came the final blow. A week before the gala, I overheard Lena talking on the phone, her voice sharp, impatient. "Of course, it's all mine. Emily just tagged along. She doesn't even understand half of it." I pressed my hand against the wall to steady myself. My heart pounded so hard I thought it might break through my ribs. That was the truth. Then, she wasn't helping me. She was erasing me. That night, I deleted my name from the project file. Quietly, completely. If they wanted Lena to have it, she could have it. But in giving it up, I found something else, the space where my anger could breathe. And as I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, I realized something was shifting inside me. My silence was no longer weakness. It was the calm before a storm. Because the next time they looked at me, I wouldn't be the forgotten one. I would be the reckoning they never saw coming. The night of the gala was supposed to be the proudest night of my life. For years, I had dreamed of presenting something that carried the Carter name, something that would finally make my parents see me. But as I stood in front of the mirror, watching Lena zip up her glittering silver gown, I realized I was only there to watch her shine. My mother fluttered around her like a proud stage manager. "You look radiant, sweetheart. You're going to make this family proud." Lena smiled, glancing at me through the mirror. "Thanks, Aunt Margaret. I just hope Emily's okay with me taking the lead." I forced a smile. "Of course. It's for the family, right?" She gave a soft laugh, the kind people use when they know they've already won. At the venue, everything sparkled. Golden chandeliers, polished floors, the hum of admiration filling the hall. I sat in the second row, behind my parents, clutching my notes like they still mattered. I had written every line of the presentation, every number, every story, but tonight, it was hers. When Lena walked on stage, the spotlight hit her like destiny itself. She began with a smile so confident it made my stomach twist. "Good evening, everyone," she said. "My name is Lena Carter, and I'm proud to present our family's vision, my project, the Heart of Heritage." My project. My title. My words. I felt the air leave my lungs. My mother clapped first, glowing with pride. My father followed, nodding approvingly. Every sentence she spoke cut deeper. Each idea, each line of inspiration was something I had bled over for months. And yet, with every word, The audience leaned closer to her. When she finished, the room erupted in applause. Cameras flashed, reporters cheered, and Lena bowed gracefully, tears of false humility in her eyes. My parents stood, hugging her like she had carried the family legacy on her back. My father even turned to shake Ethan's hand. "That's my niece," he said proudly. "She's the future of the Carter name." I sat frozen. My vision blurred. The world around me faded into a dull roar. Then, I heard it, a guest nearby whispering, "Isn't that Emily's cousin?" I heard Lena helped her fix her project. Well, looks like Lena didn't need much help after all. Laughter followed. Quiet, but enough to echo inside me. I stumbled out of the hall, into the cold night air. My heels clicked against the marble, shaky and uneven. I could still hear the applause behind me, muffled by the glass doors. I wanted to scream, to storm back in and tell everyone the truth, but I knew what would happen. They'd look at me the same way they always did, emotional, unstable, too dramatic. I walked behind the venue to the loading area, where the sound of clinking glasses and muffled music felt far away. I leaned against the wall and let the tears come, silent, unstoppable, burning down my face. It wasn't just about the project anymore. It was about my parents, how easily they chose her over me. How effortlessly they believed in her smile over my sincerity. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother. "You should be proud, Emily." This was a win for all of us. I stared at the screen, my heart sinking. They really thought I'd be proud. They truly believed my silence meant peace. Minutes later, Lena appeared outside, holding her award. "Oh," she said with mock surprise. "There you are. Everyone's looking for me. I mean, for us." She laughed softly. "You should come back in. It's your big night too." I looked at her, the streetlight casting shadows on her perfect face. "You really think what you did was fair?" She tilted her head. "Fair? Emily, it's family. We share things. You were never meant for the spotlight, and you know it. You crumble under pressure. I just made sure your ideas got the recognition they deserved." Her words dripped with poison disguised as grace. I didn't answer. I just watched her walk back inside, surrounded by the glow of everything she'd stolen. When I finally drove home that night, the silence in the car was deafening. I parked in front of the house and sat there for a long time, staring at the porch light flickering weakly. Inside, I could see the faint outline of my parents, laughing, proud, celebrating their perfect girl. That's when the realization hit me. I wasn't part of that family anymore. I was the shadow behind their reputation, the secret they'd rather forget. Days passed like ghosts. My parents never mentioned my name during interviews. When the local newspaper published the story, the headline read, "Lena Carter, the young visionary reviving the Carter legacy." My name wasn't even in the footnotes. Friends stopped calling. Ethan sent one message, "I'm sorry, Emily. I didn't know." But he didn't ask for my side. No one did. One evening, I went into my father's study. On his desk sat the award, Lena's award, surrounded by congratulatory letters. I reached out, running my fingers along the engraved plate. Beneath the polished gold, I saw my reflection, tired, hollow, but still alive. And that's when something changed inside me. The humiliation, the grief, the silence, they stopped feeling like chains. They started to feel like fire. I whispered to myself, barely audible, "They took everything from me. Now, I'll take back what they can't control, the truth." My tears dried in that moment. My heart didn't break anymore. It hardened. That night, I stopped being the forgotten daughter. I became the reckoning they never saw coming. The night my resolve hardened, I didn't shout or storm into anyone's life. I sat at my kitchen table with a single lamp, the house quiet except for the tick of the clock, and I planned. Grief had been loud. Revenge had to be clean. I would not beg for my respect back. I would expose what was taken and let the truth do the rest. First, I gathered what mattered. Every early draft saved on my laptop, timestamped notes on my phone, emails I'd sent to potential partners, voice memos where I read the introductions aloud. I pulled out the old spiral notebook where I'd sketched the artisan's market layout at 2 a.m, the page stained with coffee and impatience. Each piece felt small, but together they were a map of authorship, mine. I backed everything up, duplicated files, printed key pages. I learned to be meticulous. Humiliation had taught me how careless people become when they believe the lie. Next, I learned how to turn people's weaknesses into a plan. Lena's vanity was a doorway. She loved attention and the camera loved her back. She craved the spotlight and believed her own story. I quietly rekindled relationships, Grandma Ruth's steady wisdom, a sympathetic investor I'd met at a workshop who'd actually read my proposal months earlier, and Ethan, who I approached not with anger but with facts. Grandma Ruth offered a place to stay when I needed a quiet room to work. The investor listened and promised to verify authorship, if I could prove it. Ethan, ashamed but still useful, handed me a casual photo where Lena's handwriting didn't match mine. Small things, but they built pressure. I practiced my voice until it landed like a stone. No hysteria, no pleading, just truth, organized and undeniable. I rehearsed public moments, imagining how Lena would smile and how my parents would instinctively defend her. I wrote questions for an interview where answers couldn't be edited. I drafted emails to journalists with clear evidence attached. I set traps that looked accidental, forwarded drafts to a shared folder I knew Lena would access, left a final version on the kitchen table with metadata intact, offered to help Lena rehearse one line for an upcoming charity interview, knowing she loved to practice under light. Risk was part of the plan. To expose her publicly would mean exposing my family, too. I'd lose privacy and perhaps love. But the alternative, staying invisible, watching her wear my name, felt worse. The choice turned every fear into fuel. I slept less, moved faster, and kept my face calm in public. People read composure as weakness. I made composure my weapon. There were moments of doubt. I almost deleted the files once, frightened by the idea of ripping the family apart. I nearly called my mother and begged her to remember who I was. But every time I hesitated, I thought of the gala lights and the way my voice had been silenced. I thought of Grandma Ruth's whisper, "You must take it back." That pushed me forward. As the date I'd circled drew near, I set the final piece, an on-camera family interview to celebrate the success, something my mother and Lena wanted. I suggested it casually, as if to mend fences. They loved the idea. Lena agreed immediately, delighted at another platform. I booked a small, local station under the pretense of sharing our family story. Lena rehearsed, my parents polished their smiles, and everyone expected a tidy, triumphant piece. Only I knew what would happen when the cameras rolled. I sat in my car the night before, files spread across the passenger seat, the evidence heavy and humming with potential. My hands were steady. My heart was not. I had crossed the line from pain to action. I had chosen to cut open the wound to let the infection be seen and understood. I clicked the file one last time, looked at the proof that I had built with my own hands, and realized there was no turning back now. Would I go through with it tomorrow? The question stayed in my throat like a promise. The day of the interview arrived with unsettling calm. The studio lights were cold and sharp, and every reflection of me in the glass walls felt like a ghost I didn't recognize, not the quiet daughter anymore, but something steadier, sharper. My mother sat to my right, perfect in pearls. My father straightened his tie with pride. Lena, dazzling in white, crossed her legs and smiled for the cameras as if the world had already agreed she was a star. The host, a local TV journalist, began with charm. Tonight, we have the Carter family, an inspiring household of success and unity. Lena Carter, the face of the award-winning project The Heart of Heritage, joins us with her family to share the story behind their triumph. Lena leaned in gracefully. "It's been such a journey," she said, her voice dripping sweetness. "Our family has always believed in hard work and honesty. I just wanted to make everyone proud." Honesty. The word twisted like a knife. The host turned to me. "Emily, as Lena's cousin, you must be very proud." I smiled, controlled. "Proud? Yes. But not for the reasons you think." The host blinked, uncertain. "What do you mean?" My father shot me a warning look. "Emily, let's keep this positive." "No, Dad," I interrupted gently, but firmly. "We've all been keeping things positive for too long." Lena laughed lightly, eyes flickering with tension. "Emily's always been dramatic. Ignore her." I reached into my bag and placed a small USB drive on the table. "You said you believed in honesty, Lena. Let's show everyone what that looks like." The studio fell silent. The technician, at my cue, played the file. Lena's own voice filled the room, a recording from weeks earlier. "Of course it's all mine. Emily just tagged along. She doesn't even understand half of it." The host froze. My mother's face went pale. My father's jaw tightened. Lena stumbled. That's taken out of context. I stood up, my voice trembling but loud enough for every MIC to catch. Out of context? Then maybe you can explain this. The screen behind us lit up, my drafts, emails, and dated notes, projected one after another. My name stamped clearly on every file. My handwriting on every chart. The room filled with whispers and gasps. You didn't create the project, I said, each word deliberate. You stole it, and my family helped you. My mother reached for me. Emily, please, this isn't the place. This is exactly the place, I said, turning toward her. You taught me that family honor matters most. But what honor is left when lies are the foundation? The host tried to cut to commercial. I kept speaking. For years, I thought silence meant respect. I thought enduring humiliation quietly made me a good daughter. But all it did was make me invisible. Lena's mask cracked. You can't prove intent. I don't need to, I replied. I just needed to show the truth. The air felt electric, the kind that comes before thunder. My father stood abruptly, voice low but trembling. Lena, tell me this isn't true. She stammered, her charm collapsing. Uncle Richard, I thought. He turned away, face gray. My mother looked at me, tears glinting in her eyes, the kind that come too late to matter. Reporters outside the studio had already begun whispering. Cameras zoomed in on my calm face, on Lena's panic, on my mother's shame. The Carter family's perfect image cracked in front of a live audience. I didn't want revenge, I said softly into the microphone. I wanted the truth. Because respect isn't something you inherit, it's something you earn. The host cleared her throat, stunned into silence. The crew didn't know whether to cut or keep rolling. Then Grandma Ruth's voice came from the front row, steady and clear. Finally, someone in this family remembered what dignity sounds like. Lena broke down crying. My parents sat frozen, speechless. I stood there, tears streaming but unhidden this time. It wasn't weakness anymore, it was release. As the cameras faded and the lights dimmed, I whispered one final line meant for every person who ever dismissed me. They built their pride on my silence, but tonight, I tore the silence apart. The room erupted, not in applause, but in truth. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't the one standing in the shadows. I was the light, and they couldn't bear to look at it. When the cameras turned off, silence filled the studio, the kind that hums louder than applause. The lights dimmed, the crew shuffled awkwardly, and no one in my family could meet my eyes. The truth had been spoken, and it was heavier than any punishment I could have planned. Lena sat frozen in her chair, mascara streaking down her cheeks, her once perfect smile gone. My mother pressed a hand to her mouth, trembling. My father's hands clenched at his sides. The proud man who had built his legacy on control was suddenly small, defeated. For years, they taught me that appearances meant everything. Now, those appearances had shattered, and all that remained was the echo of lies collapsing in on themselves. I walked out of the studio without a word. No triumph, no gloating, just the cool night air wrapping around me like a sigh of relief. Outside, the city moved on, unaware that an entire world had ended behind those glass doors. That night, I packed my things quietly. Grandma Ruth helped me, her wrinkled hands steady as ever. You did what needed to be done, she said softly. They may not thank you now, but one day, they'll understand. I don't want their thanks, I whispered. Just my peace. I left the Carter house before dawn. The driveway that had once felt like a cage now felt like freedom. I drove until the city lights faded, until the air smelled of rain and earth instead of perfume and lies. I rented a small apartment near the market, the same one that had inspired my project. For the first time in years, I felt something simple and real, stillness. In the weeks that followed, the story spread everywhere. Some called me brave, others said I'd ruined my family's reputation. But for once, their opinions didn't matter. My project, the Heart of Heritage, was credited back to me. Investors reached out, not for the Carter name, but for my name. I rebuilt the business under my own banner, brick by brick, truth by truth. Lena disappeared from the spotlight. My parents avoided the media for months. Sometimes, I'd get letters, carefully written, never apologetic enough, but heavy with regret. I didn't reply. Forgiveness wasn't my duty anymore, dignity was. One evening, As I stood in my new workspace watching local artisans display their work, a little girl approached me, holding one of our handcrafted scarves. "My mom says you made this place," she said. "She says you turned pain into power." I smiled, my throat tight. "Tell your mom she's right." In that moment, I realized something. Revenge had never been about destroying them. It was about rebuilding myself, not as the forgotten daughter, but as a woman who learned that truth, once spoken, doesn't just free you. It defines you. Weeks later, I visited Grandma Ruth. She looked at me with quiet pride. "You've changed," she said. I nodded. "I finally understand what you meant, Grandma. Silence doesn't protect dignity. It buries it." She smiled, eyes glistening. "And now?" I looked out at the horizon, the fading sun painting everything gold. "Now," I said, "I speak, not to be heard, but to never be erased again."